And it was just a diverse group of young people that were just ambitious, but they can't control their circumstances. So we started saying affirmations. And one of the affirmations was, I am a genius. And that was one that I wanted to make sure to plant that seed. Regardless of your circumstance, regardless of whatever was going on, that seed was going to be planted. And they were going to speak it to life. And whenever they awakened to it and believed it and seen it, that would happen along the journey. But my part was to help plant that seed.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Bamboo. Yes, I am sitting in the podcast room at the Bamboo Detroit location right now, which is where you have seen a ton of the Black Fridays podcast episodes. And the reason that is because Bamboo has been Black Friday's creative hub for the last couple of years. However, it's much more than our creative HQ. It's home to hundreds of entrepreneurs, creators, thinkers, and doers just like yourself. Now, whether you need a private suite that's customized to your liking so that you can effectively get work done, or if you need a space to be able to host a meeting or a conference call, Bamboo has flexible, creative spaces and a supportive community to match. Now, if you don't get anything from this message, I need you to do this right here. Go ahead, click the link to check out Bamboo's selection of private suites at any of their locations. That's right, any of their Bamboo co-work locations. And you can also find a link in the show notes as well to get those details. And it's time for you, yeah, that's right, you, to join the Bamboo community. That's it. Time to get into the show. What up, Doe? Black Fridays family. Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I need you to make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe button, drop a comment, send some videos to your family, friends, and loved ones, and let's keep this thing going. Now that we got that business out of the way, I want to introduce you to Detroit's own resident genius, Miss Candace Cox-Wimberley. How you doing today?
I'm blessed and fortunate. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I can't complain.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for pulling up on us to the podcast. So you have been able to curate a career that is centered in wellness, but been able to have experiences in terms of being a speaker, being an author, being a media personality, and all the things. So if you don't mind, could you tell us how you would introduce Candace to the world?
Ooh, okay. Well, let me see. I would first like to begin by starting my acknowledgement to me fulfilling my purpose. You know, I'm very intentional about fulfilling what God has put within me. So every day, that's a dedicated focus of like, okay, what does it look like today? Now, how did I get in the wellness space? That has been something that I never planned for. I have always been community driven though. Community focused, whether that was community initiatives from the public sector, the private sector, or the nonprofit. But wellness, I think overall came to life by it being tools I seen were useful for me when I needed it, and being able to bring that together, the community as well as wellness together in one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so talk to us about I Am Genius and how did it come to be about and the services that you offer?
Mm-hmm. So good lead in. So youth is a piece. I had a college prep program I was doing after school. And that was called Ingenuity College Prep. And it was something I started at that time. I was tutoring young people on how to prepare for college, giving them life skills concepts, giving them test prep, information mentors. And that was for at least like 2 to 3 years, you know, and during that time, I also was teaching at a school. And while I was at the school, it was in a very challenged neighborhood, you know, it was real rough of some of the stories that the young people came and shared each day. And it really burdened me because I'm like, you know, I only have them here. What can I do that's going to really help them when they leave here, right? I remember one student, she was smart as ever, right? But she was not be there like days at a time, sometimes weeks at a time. But when she came, stellar. And I was confused, like, it don't add up. Like, how, what, you know? And then she opened up to me and shared she had younger siblings. and she had to stay home to babysit while her mom went to work. So she couldn't come to school. So then we had, a rapport where I started giving her things she can work on while she was home. But just stories like that, really touched my heart, and it was just a diverse group of young people that were just ambitious, but they can't control their circumstances. So we started saying affirmations. And one of the affirmations was, I am a genius. And that was one that I wanted to make sure to plant that seed. Regardless of their circumstance, regardless of whatever was going on, that seed was going to be planted and they were going to speak it to life. And whenever they awakened to it and believed it and seen it, that would happen along the journey. But my part was to help plant that seed. So then it began, from there, the affirmations in the classroom became like notebooks and things I would give them as a reminder, like, or t-shirts, they could see it in the mirror, because even people today, they'd be like, I am a genius. Nah, But my belief of that is, I think we all are. It's in our DNA. We were created by the genius, our creator. And being able to have that opportunity to have them learn what a genius is, giving them a whole nother outlook, and perception about the whole narrative of what we hear a genius is, but then being able to understand they were too.
Got you. And I got one more question, and then we're going to have some fun here. In turn, what's your definition of being a genius?
My definition of being a genius is someone who is tapping into their unique talent, their unique creativity, whatever that might be. And I believe we all have a different one. I believe that, as I mentioned earlier, God, our creator, is the genius. And I believe that from that standpoint, we all have something in our DNA. When we were formed, just like, we're all start somewhere in our mother's womb. But when that formation is happening, because we have a purpose, everybody has a purpose. That's why we're here, right? So I believe identifying what that is, and everyone's is going to be different. It doesn't mean it's like always an Einstein. It doesn't mean it's always an engineer. It doesn't mean that, it could be in any realm of life. It could be the best mother. It could be, that's creating all these different incredible people that are helping them shape and molding them. That's a genius, and being able to, maybe it's a designer. Maybe it's, an artist. Maybe it is an athlete. Whatever it is, like your talent, your purpose, your passion, I think it's all wrapped up in one.
Love it. So now we're going to have some fun on Black Fridays. I'm going to introduce you to Freestyle Friday. So I don't know how many times I got to say it, but if you have a brand or a business that you build in, then you definitely need legal protection. And I know exactly what your problem is. Too many of us wait until there is a problem in order to seek out these type of services. But guess what? This is the exact reason why I teamed up with the law office of Beverly Bill. They've got consultations and perfectly crafted legal templates for you to leverage at your fingertips. So because y'all Black Fridays family, this is what I'm going to do for y'all. If you head over to www.beverlybilllaw.com, once again, that's www.beverlybilllaw.com. You can hit the link in the show notes right now. You can get $25 off all consultations using a promo code BF25. That's BF25 for $25 off all consultations. Also, the contract templates that I know you need for your business and the projects that you've been working on, you can get 35% off all of those contracts by using the code BF35 at checkout. So all you have to do is head over to www.beverlybilllaw.com to lock in your protection today. All right, now let's get back into the episode. Candace, I hope you got some bars.
No. You got me nervous. I'm like, oh, shoot.
So we're going to need to hear some raps. We're going to need to hear you sing. What you got, some poetry?
That ain't my genius.
Okay.
That ain't it. You want your listeners to keep tuning in, right?
Fair enough. So, okay, you can answer these rapid fire questions for us.
Okay.
So they all about you. We just ask you to answer each one and answer honestly.
Okay.
All right. So because you have authored some books, I want to know, what's your favorite book to read?
A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson.
And what is that about for the people who haven't heard of that one?
That one is really about what love is. And then in life, that there's two things, love or the ego. And really being able to see what that looks like, you know, and being able to decide and be what you want to be, you know, and being able to be love, provide love, experience love, you know, versus the different things in life we go through. And a lot of times, like, there's like always love or the choice of the ego. And also just things that might be an illusion or what's not real. And I won't get too deep into it, but what I will say is when she says the return to love, it's like the core of like what we are created from and what it's all about. It's a good read.
Love it. What is your favorite wellness hack? What's something that you like to do for your own well-being?
Go by the water. I love the serenity of water. You know, it provides me so much peace. Every time I'm there, it's like a first encounter. You know, the serene peace. And being in Detroit, we have a riverfront. So going there or going to Bilal. A lot of people don't know we have an island in Detroit.
We got our own island,
Yep. So that's one of my favorite places. So if I'm there breathing, just doing breathing activities or just relaxing, or I might read a book. I might be listening to music. I might be jogging. I might run along the water. But anything by the water.
Okay.
On the water, on the boat.
I know that you mentioned you do yoga as well. Do you have a favorite kind of yoga? I know it's different styles, different disciplines. Do you have a favorite type?
I like to practice hot yoga the most, but I like to teach vinyasa. Those are two different, you know, realms. But I like hot yoga for me because I like to detox and be able to get into the poses and be able to just relax and woosah. But when I'm teaching my vinyasa, I have a lot of fun with it. Change the music up and change the poses up. So a lot of people that come, they love that piece because it's a surprise, element of surprise of what's the next pose and what's the next song.
Dope. And what's something you're listening to right now? Anything you got in rotation?
For music wise, it changes every day.
Okay.
I am very diverse when it comes to music. It could be jazz, it could be pop, R&B, rap. But right now, I'm gonna be honest, Flipper T.
Okay, I haven't heard of Flipper T.
Flipper T, she has a song Affirmations. And it's pretty much, you might have heard it on the radio. They got a lot of social media videos on it, like Hype Me Up. Hype Me Up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I like that song.
Got you. Okay. Well, thank you for partaking in Freestyle Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
You passed with flying colors, so appreciate you engaging in the randomness.
That's CC.
So going back to I Am Genius, and then you start this entity with the opportunity to be able to help guide people in terms of their own awareness of self, and then being able to, like you mentioned, teach young people about their own genius and instilling in them to have that mindset. You also developed a guided journal for people to be able to work through and establish that within themselves. Could you talk to us about that? And I know you brought it with you in the physical form, but we'd love to know, how did that even come about to think like, let me put this journal together for the people?
So this is the first one, my first baby, and it actually received a Spirit of Detroit Award.
Shout out to you.
Shout out, thank you, and a shout out to the city for recognizing the great use. The career journal first was by way of me reaching more young people. I'm like, I want to reach them around the globe, but I'm one person and I know it's needed. And there's a lot of pieces in here that I know I'm glad I knew, I'm glad I learned, and I wish I knew. So took the time and space to put all that together, and that also includes just with the career aspect of it, being able to have guided space to really think about questions that you want, that connects with the career. So questions about, what is it that you really want to do, and a lot of times we have that piece of either being persuaded or pressured by an individual, whether it be a friend, a family member, whatever it might be, on deciding like on where you want to go after high school and what you want to pursue. And this is a safe space. It's like, what can I do to make sure an individual, young people can be able to really get real about how they feel and really have support and being like, okay, asking questions they don't know that they don't know, right? So included is also pieces and concepts on entrepreneurship, on how to start a business, what entrepreneurship is, because I'm a huge advocate and have been for years on entrepreneurship. I have been advocating, coaching, supporting individuals on starting businesses forever now. And I think it's a piece where connected to genius, everyone can start a business. Everyone may not be, I think there's a difference too. We might get further into this later of an entrepreneur versus a business owner.
Okay.
But,
we're going to break that down later for sure. Yeah. But go ahead.
But other pieces that's in the journal is also just knowing the different options of post-secondary education. Just bringing that conversation to the room. Instead of just college, there are other options versus a 4-year college. It might be a skilled trade. It might be a vocational school. It might be you starting a business. But being able to know whatever it is, I got a plan. And then with my plan, I'm getting the skills, I'm getting the tools, I'm getting the resources to help me be great in whatever I choose versus just being out there.
Exactly. And so the process in terms of developing the journal, what was that like for you? And I know you said that was your first baby and you got a chance to start the foundation there and build upon that, but getting that first one out the gate, what was that like?
This was in 2017 when I released this one. I remember at that time I was still doing a lot of work in the college prep world. And I remember I was actually in partnership with doing some work with the DIA. No, not the DIA at that time, Michigan Science Center. And they had a program called Seminista that Dr. Tanya Matthews led at that time. But their manager and I had a discussion about some workshops, so coming and doing some workshops with the girls. And I was already working on my curriculum for I Am a Genius. And I've never really told this story before. Okay. Anyhow.
Getting exclusive.
Yeah. At that time, I was already working on it. So that was that confirmation, that push of get it done, get it in the hands. And it just kind of lined up with the things they needed and wanted and what I was already working on. So being able to have that in place, and they just created a rapid fire for me to get the whole project complete so it can be in place to use as a tool. You hear me use that word plenty on this podcast, but being able to have that available and ready for the participants and to just continue to have a life of its own, being able to grow. So accompanied with this journal a couple of years after, I completed some facilitators guides for teachers to be able to use to go along with the presentations in the book. And that has been really instrumental too. So it's taking on a life of its own. I'm grateful. A lot of it was I gave birth to it, put it out there, and then it's, doing this thing now and being so worldwide.
Yeah. And what was it like putting in the work to get it accessible to folks from the standpoint of Amazon? I know that you were able to sell in Meyer as well. What was that like to even go through that process? Because I know a lot of people that sometimes create books and you may get them in one place, like Amazon has its own process, but to kind of get it into an actual retailer, that I know that's a completely different beast. So what was it like doing that? And not just saying I made a book, I got a few copies, that's it.
The grind is real, okay? It's real, and it ain't always pretty. So that is something where it's a combination where I had to not only with my retailers, because right now we are in 9 stores, and being able to have relationships, key. Being able to have good relationships, being able to make sure that it is something that the store knows that will mutually benefit, and being able to be in key locations. I'm very grateful and very happy about the stores I am a part of and have my product in, because I'm selective. And also being able to not only have those relationships, I'm making the phone calls. I'm calling the people. I'm making a point to go meet the people in the stores, people I may not have already had a previous relationship with, developing those relationships. And a lot of the times, when people see it, they're like, I never heard of this. This is great. We want it. We want to see it. We want to sell it. And it's more of just getting in front of the individuals, getting in front of the people. But like I said, the grind don't stop. It's constant calls. It's constant introductions. It's constant, be passing somebody, walking down the hall here at Bamboo, and it just be something that sparks in that conversation, so always being ready and listening.
Always be selling. Ain't that what they say?
Yeah. But I think mine is, I had a challenge at one point of even, as you say, selling, because I was more into, I got it done, the people that need to find it will find it. You're like, no. You don't make no money doing it. So I'm like, I did my part. So that's where I had to, like I said, roll my sleeves back up and really get on the grind, and also more so keeping that idea in mind of whoever it's for, but being able to let them know it exists. Helping with that, and that's where those pieces come together. What I was sharing before, and then at that point, it's not so much selling it; it's so much just again putting in front. If it's for you, right? It's for you, right?
The people who it resonates with, they will take action. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to a point that you made earlier in terms of the difference between a business owner and entrepreneur through this journey, in terms of you starting with the I Am a Genius self-guide and then building upon that, would you say that in this, and then also you have your other practices that you do as well, yoga and then other wellness aspects, would you say that you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, and then also break down the difference in your opinion between the two?
Okay. Can I flip the order?
Yep.
Okay.
I meant to say that. Yeah, go ahead. That would make more sense. But yeah, go ahead.
I will say the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner is an entrepreneur can work for any business, and they have the ideas, they have the innovation of concepts, they have the innovation of creating things. You have an entrepreneur working for one of the big three automotive companies. Yeah. Plenty of people are, and they actually have that title, right, as an entrepreneurial role. But they don't own the company, right? And with a business owner, you own the business. Not only do you own the business, you also have key fundamental pieces in place to keep the business and the operational going. So what an entrepreneur can be that creative innovation, the idea. The business owner is, you have a business that you're running that's making money, that's keeping the business in play. Okay. So putting them together, that works, and you have a lot of people who are solopreneurs, and that's pretty much an entrepreneur who runs a business, and they are like the main sole person running it.
Is that kind of like the blend between the business owner and entrepreneur, solopreneur?
It can be. Okay. It can be, because a solopreneur is pretty much a one-person show a lot of times, at least until you get your business into a place where you have the funding and the operations. If you want it to grow and scale it further, then it provides space for that. I believe that I've seen a lot of solopreneurs here in Detroit with the resources available that I really appreciate here in Detroit, including like Motor City Match. Shout out to some of the resources they're providing. But you have a lot of people who start as a solopreneur. And people may or may not identify themselves as that, but what it's defined as, some people are operating in that space. And then as they grow, they might have contractors. And then as they grow, they can scale it further and have people that are employees if they choose.
And then how would you define it for yourself? Would you say you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, business owner, all three mixed into one?
I would like to say all the above. And if I haven't been all at once, I've definitely been one of each. Okay. Right now, I've heard heard the term people say serialpreneur.
I'll say it, serial entrepreneur or serialpreneur. Yeah.
And no, to each his own, but I do not like that term. I don't like that terminology. Just listening to it just makes you feel stressed out. Like, oh, shoot. When you just say the word, you're like, oh, stress.
I feel like those people are proud. I think the entrepreneur label works best for them because, and they say it's a part of the title, serial entrepreneur, because it's essentially you have these ideas, you stand them up, and then you go do the next idea. Like that's how their mind tends to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And they have like maybe 20 businesses, and I just say, if you're a multi-entrepreneur, I have multiple businesses. That's for me.
Yeah.
I just know what works for me in my mental. When I hear that word, I'm like, oh, shoot. Too much. But there are a lot of people who are out here doing it. They have multiple businesses and they consider themselves a serial entrepreneur. And my heads go off to them.
Yeah. I think that the trick or the sweet spot, at least what I've learned over the years, is being able to, you don't have to do a bunch of different things in different arenas. If you could find what your main thing is, and then you build those other streams of income or revenue around that, then that's what makes sense. That's how you do it there versus like, oh, well, I do hair, I own, I'm a franchisee, I do this, I do that, I'm a truck driver. Like instead of doing all separate stuff, you make it all aligned. Do you feel like you've been able to do that in your career thus far?
I do. I do feel like I have been in a position and place where not only have I done multiple things, I think I'm not even speaking for myself when I say this, but a lot of times it's survival. Sometimes you're in a space where you do what you got to do, right? And that's when you really are pushed up against the wall to really tapping in. What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? What's my why? Because that's what's going to fuel you. That's what's going to feed you. And that's what's really going to attract whoever it's for, what you're supposed to do. And, Detroit, we hustlers in Detroit, period. Point blank. That's just what we do. Ain't nothing like Detroit. I will say a lot of times some people, though, they doing what they got to do. Yeah. They trying to make that money, trying to get the bag. And some people doing what they have to do because they got to get the bag, And I really can appreciate that because I come from a family of entrepreneur and business owners. And I've seen both. I've seen the grind. I've seen the dedication. I've seen the work. I've seen people, some relatives scale really high and do really good. And I've seen some that work their butt off and they're just making it day by day, but at the same time, they feel a reward of the independence that they might have chosen wanted to do in whatever business concept or whatever business that they were pursuing, right? But to your point, I do think it's really instrumental when individuals who have businesses or entrepreneurs have a coach. And have a coach that's really tapping in, that's going to not only tell you what you like to hear, but what you need to hear. Yeah. It's very key because a lot of times you in the midst of everything you're trying to do, but you need somebody that's going to sit you down and be like you say, okay, you're doing too much. Yeah. Let's try to bring it home. Let's set some 3, 4, 5 year goals. And maybe this fits better there, and perhaps there's still some stuff that can commingle, but having a coach, having somebody, especially solopreneurs, to sit down with you to go over your thoughts, go over your ideas, somebody that you can trust, somebody that you can sit down and be able to have that space and opportunity to kind of really roll out your plan. Because if you are in that space of survivorship, you probably don't have the time to breathe and think. You're just like, I'm doing what I have to do. And you may not know the business side. Yeah. So a lot of people who got businesses, great ideas, but they don't really know the business side of setting up a business plan to be able to position and get funding to help their business grow. Right.
Like you're great at the thing that is the business is created around, but you don't you could care less about business in the sense. And then that's when, you run into a lot of issues that small businesses typically run into where it's like, oh, the customer service not that great or they super slow and X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, that person has expertise over here, best chef in the Midwest, but The business stuff they could care less about. Like, I don't care about you getting your stuff on time, but your food gonna be fired when you get it. So like, yeah, they run into a lot of issues. So it's definitely huge to be able to have that outside party that can guide you and point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And tell us more about the books and things that you've been able to build on top of I Am a Genius. And I know you got a few with you, and then one I think is exclusive that we had talked about before we started recording. But could you tell us about those real quick?
Yes. So there are now, I am happy to share, we have over a collection of at least 15 different titles. And each one has a different affirmative message. So we have a variety of, even if it's a guided one, it's an affirmative message. So when you read it, you're saying it, you're affirming to yourself. Like right here, I am living now. This one is essentially for individuals to do their live list. A lot of people call it a bucket list. I call it a live list. Okay. And I call it a live list because it's what you choose to live out, what you want to experience. And I have a lot of customers buy this, whether they're recently retired, they get it as a gift for someone, or some people who might just, be in a space that needs some light, and this kind of encourages them. I do one thing each year for my birthday, and what I do is write down the year that I'm turning, and I'll start for my birthday and throughout things I want to experience, things I want to have the opportunities to do that year. So if I was turning 21, I got 21 things. If I'm turning 25, I got 25 things. And that is pretty much aligned with the live list. Okay. And you can use a journal, just put it in here, and then you write down your experience of what that felt like, what that did for you, what that might have been. We have a guided gratitude journal that does very well. That one came about after my own personal struggles with some things that just came back-to-back challenges. In 2016 was one of the years that was very challenging. I lost a very close loved one in my family. It was just a number of things without going down the whole list. Yeah. And I read a book by Oprah, and one of the things she focused on was gratitude. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm spiritual. I go to church, I'm grateful, but the way she broke it down, I'm like, you need to make sure to write down or speak what you're grateful for each day. And I made a point to do that. I would write 5 things I was grateful for every day to give me that motivation, to give me that strength, whatever it might have been. I wrote down 5 things every day, and it made a whirlwind of difference. It has transformed my life. And being able to use that concept. And as it evolved and grew, it was more than 5 things. Sometimes I just get going and I'm just going, writing, or speaking it, or I'm in, when I'm bathing, washing up, while I'm driving, I'm just in that space. And it's a form of, also can call it a form of worship, of where you're expressing your gratitude, things you're appreciative for. And what I recognize how it really helped me, I put together a journal. And it was more of, again, those who need it, they'll find it. But I did finish it in 2019, right on the cusp of us going into a pandemic, not even knowing it. And it was something that at that time, I remember when I finished it, I was really rolling out the plan to campaign it, rolling out the plan to market it. And being able to have just the key concepts. But I had, for whatever reason, paused. I think at that time, it was a family matter going on with my stepfather. He was ill. But I remember once the pandemic hit, I had just finished publishing it, and I gifted it to so many people. I gifted it and just mailed it as a gift for them to help get through that challenging time that we all experienced. But I had a number of people I knew directly that had lost a loved one during that time. And it was something that I just took the liberty to just mail it out, some of my anonymously, just to be something to help them get through those tough moments, especially when everybody was by themselves and isolated. Yeah.
Got you. And I would love to know, based off of what you just said, your wellness journey. So I know that we had talked about how you instruct as far as yoga go, but how did that become a part of your lifestyle? And then it also seems to have made its way into your career and the type of business that you have built as well. But how did that even enter your life to like go on be more intentional about your wellness, I should say?
Wellness has always been something I've been mindful of, but mindfulness has been something I grew to expand upon. I remember leading up to the pandemic, even before that, I was always a runner. I would run every day, at least 3 miles a day, right? But I had first got introduced to yoga. I want to say maybe 5+ years prior to the pandemic. And I had a friend introduce me to it. This friend gave me a book about yoga, gave me a DVD. And I'm like, okay, put it to the side. I'll come back to it one day. And not even knowing, fast forward, another friend introduced me to the concept. This is their daily living life, and they would share with me how they did yoga often. And I, listened. I was intrigued. And then I had another friend invite me, like, come with me, let's go do some yoga together. First time I did it, it was Bikram, and I fell asleep. Hot yoga. I was knocked out. I'm like, that was the best nap ever. And put it to the side, like the books, for a couple of years. I had another friend introduced me to, brought me to the class with her. And when I went with her, I just started liking it, started doing it. But I didn't get fully committed like on a daily at that point. I would just go to classes. And then fast forward, I remember in 2020, I just found myself doing it. Found myself doing the stretches, found myself meditating, found myself just implementing it in my daily. And then I ended up taking a course to learn more about it and be able, here I am again, community advocate. I want to bring it to the community. I know a lot of people have a misconception about what yoga is. A lot of people, especially being brought up in a church, being brought up, being very spiritual, I recognized early on, everybody, it was like, what you doing? You don't do that, But from me learning the key concepts, I feel like that's one of the closest times and places you are with God, where you're going in within in tune, while you're stretching, or even meditation is another form of prayer.
Thanks.
So from there, I just started, teaching after I got my certification, and went ahead and started teaching different communities and even with youth, because I'm huge on making sure that they get exposure early on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with all those things that you have been able to culminate with the wellness, with your community advocacy and involvement, and then also like your professional education and background, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with that you feel like people don't necessarily understand when in regards to like intentionality about how they're living their life, or things that they, how they can unlock like that spirit to be able to do more?
Well, I do have this wellness planner coming out. This one is huge. It's like a huge concept. It won't be this large, but throughout, there are daily prompts on questions that ask you, your affirmative message. Who are you? Your top priority, the moods you're in, as well as just different mindfulness prompts and exercises. When I create this, your monthly intentions, quarterly intentions. But when I created this, it was to help myself and others to be able to be intentional about incorporating wellness every day. And it might look different. A lot of times we might hear wellness and we think gym. You might hear wellness and it might just be in a box concept, as opposed to knowing you can incorporate it every day. And it really starts with your mind, which also helps with your spirit. It's like mind, body, and soul. And you absolutely still can incorporate some type of physical, right? So this is one piece that, I really think it would be key. Not even just pushing because I wrote it, I push it because it's like, hey, let's do this together. Let's make a point to incorporate wellness in our daily. But another piece that I really think is very important across the masses is everybody really having grace. Because so many people are going through different struggles. So many people have their silent struggles right now. And I think if we have the ability to just offer a little more grace on a daily to ourselves and others, because right now the level of patience is like this, because so many people have so much on their mind, not only in their own household with all the shifts and changes that's happening in the world, from on the cuffs of a pandemic coming into a new political administration with all the shifts that's happening around the world. And then your day-to-day, whatever that might be, all of that together, everybody got something going on. So if we can have a little bit more grace for one another, if we can also offer a little bit hand of support, you know, that might just be that phone call. That might be that text, you know, that might just be, hey, I wanted to just come over and check on you. I just wanted to come visit.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't pull up no more.
Right.
And it's like, don't just be pulling up on me. You know, respect people's boundaries.
Right.
But
At least check in some way, shape, or form.
Check in some way, shape, or form. And being able to have grace, it goes far. It goes far. And that's where I leave it.
All right, for sure. And where can the people find you if they're interested in following your journey? They want to be able to be first in line to get your new guided journals. How can they tap in with you? What's your website, your handles, all that stuff?
Yep, the website, iamagenius.net. iamagenius.net. And then everything can be found right there. All the handlers for Instagram or anything else, Facebook, it's all right there on your website.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, Candace, thank you for stopping by, spending some time with us on Black Fridays. We appreciate the intentionality behind the work that you do and how you are encouraging people to be them better selves, to pay more attention to their wellness, and then being able to start that from a youth perspective and then be able to create something that a lot of people can be able to get benefit from. Definitely is important, and we need more of that. So we appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really like what you're doing here. Diverse audiences that you're reaching with diverse guests. And I wanted to make sure I did say, I forgot to mention, we have a summer camp for our nonprofit. Our nonprofit is She's a Genius. And it's for our middle and high school girls, those who are preparing to go to the next thing, whether it's high school or life after high school. We're going to have a camp. It's going to be so phenomenal. It's going to be 1 week, and they can go to our website to get information too.
Perfect. And then what's the website for that one more time?
Well, the nonprofit is She's a Genius.
Okay.
She'sagenius.org, but they can still get it from our I'm a Genius website. They can still find it, the link on the website.
Perfect. Well, make sure that y'all tap in, get your children enrolled in the camp if they are eligible. And then everybody listening and watching, we're going to tap in with y'all soon. Peace.